So welcome back guys, and today we are going to talk about the framework designing. Okay, framework designing. Now most of the people in industry have a very big idea about the framework in their mind. Okay, but believe me, framework designing is not that difficult, but it's a huge and bulky task that you need to carry on. And believe me, its bulkiness makes it complex sometimes. Okay, but it is not at all a complex idea to develop or to start with. But we should know the very first step that should be taken to develop your own test automation framework. Okay, so I'm going to simplify this process throughout this session and the coming sessions also. This is the very first session about the framework, test automation framework, and here we are talking about the test automation framework. So what is the test automation framework? Now you guys may tell me that there is keyword driven framework in the market. Okay, keyword driven framework. Then there is data driven, and maybe there is test driven, that is test ng again, and maybe behavior driven, that is bdd, and so on and so forth. So you will tell me these approaches, but I don't want the approaches. What I want is a very simple and a very sweet, very convenient definition of the test automation framework. Now, as its name implies, it is a test automation. Okay, so what we are going to do is we are going to automate our test. Now what is the test? Regression test, smoke test, sanity test, functional test, and so on and so forth. So there are so many types of tests available. Under this test, we are going to imagine several different scenarios. Under each and every scenario, we are going to create a test case. So this is the flow of designing the manual testing. But here in the test automation, what we are going to do is we are going to design a framework. We are going to design a framework. Okay, please mute yourself, guys.
Hello. Hello.
So yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I was muted, I guess.
Okay.
Sorry, guys. So I don't know from where you have listening me, but let me repeat myself. What is test automation framework I'm talking about is it is simply a bulk program containing several classes, interfaces, abstract classes, and lots of methods as per our requirement and need. Okay. It is not compulsory that your automation framework should have all of these three, that is classes, interfaces, and abstract classes and methods again. It is not compulsory at all. So your framework may have only classes, your framework may have only abstract classes. Only abstract classes will not be possible again, but it is not compulsory that your framework should have interfaces in it. It is not compulsory that your framework should have abstract classes in it, and so on. Okay, but obviously your framework should have lots of methods, which are going to perform some or the other task desired by you. Okay, now let me tell you then what is the need of automation framework. This is the very simple definition of the automation framework, test automation framework. Now let me explain need of automation framework. Okay, need of automation framework. Now what is the need of automation framework? Now remember that in a day-to-day life, what we used to do is we used to write so many test cases. Okay, maybe they are manual test cases, and maybe they are automation test cases right now using the Java and Selenium, or maybe Python Selenium, or maybe C# Selenium, or something else. Okay, so at the end of the day you are ending up with some program. Okay, now for one test case you are writing one Java method along with Selenium. For other test case you are writing some other method. For other test case you are writing some different method. So as many test cases you have manual, those many number of automation test cases you are going to write, and we will call them as test script henceforth. Okay, so all of these test scripts will grow day by day. Okay, will grow day by day, and if you are not putting any logic in between them, okay, let's say that first test script and second test script doesn't have any collaboration in between them, then obviously you will end up with a repetitive code, okay, most of time, and a code which cannot be used further. This may be happen that your code gets scrapped after few days. It may happen that you will end up or with the frustration of managing all the test methods that you have written, because at the end of day you are going to, let's say you are going to automate 1,000 test cases. Okay, if I talk about my project is having almost 1,000 automation test cases in them, and out of which 400 have been customized so far. So if you imagine this kind of huge scope, then it will become really difficult for you to manage all of these 1,000 test scripts and execute them as per your requirement in coming future. So, okay, if it is a very large and monolithic program that you have written for all of the 100,000 test cases, so it will become really difficult for you. Here, the need of automation framework arises. Okay, so what automation framework can do? Okay, so automation framework should reduce the line of codes. Okay, then it should reduce the complexity of test automation. Okay, the tasks should become very easy. So you should create a framework in such a way that a person having very less knowledge of programming, or maybe no knowledge of programming, can also automate using your framework. This is the requirement. But so far we have studied core Java and then Selenium, and then we have seen that how we can bind them together to write a test script, automation test script. Okay, but that is the knowledge that you have gained. Okay, you know the core Java, you know the Selenium, but there may be a fresher guy in your team, he doesn't know about the Selenium, about the core Java much. So if you want him to automate the test scripts or test cases, then obviously he cannot. But if you have a framework, if you have a test automation framework, then obviously the fresher guy can also automate using your framework, having a very less programming knowledge. Okay, so this is how we need to develop the framework. Okay, it should reduce the complexity of test automation. Okay, it should have a code, it should have a code which should be reusable. Okay, it should not happen that I have created the framework for XYZ project, now my project is changed, and for the changed project my automation framework is not working. So this should not happen at all, because you are putting in few hours or maybe so many hours of efforts in designing the automation framework. So obviously if you are going to scrap out your own framework, then it is a very frustrating thing for you. Believe me. So we should design a framework in such a way that it should be applicable for different projects. So no matter what kind of project is coming to your company, your organization, doesn't matter, but your automation framework should work for that project also. So I insist every candidate of my class to design a framework in such a way that it should be applicable for each and every project. Okay, it should be it should have a code which should be reusable. Sorry, it's a typo. Reusable. Now next thing comes in picture, that it should generate it should generate a neat and clean test report. This is the very crucial task. Okay, see, after execution of the test cases, what is most required is the report. Okay, now here your test automation framework should be able to create a very neat and clean and understandable and informative test report at the end of execution. So automation framework should have the capability to generate the report as per the requirements. Now requirement can be raised by your own teams. Requirements can be raised by your client. Let's say you are designing a report which is not at all understandable by the client. How you are going to convince your client that I have done the automation, because he is paying for you. Okay, he's paying for the automation. How will you convince him that, hey man, I have done the automation and this is the report, please read this? So I cannot give him the test engine report in that case. Okay, why? Because test engine report is not understandable by him at all. He just can see the figures, passing, failing and skipping and etc. So I cannot I cannot convince him on basis of the test engine report. So my framework should be liable enough to design its own reporting, which should be understandable by your client, by the different teams to whom you are sharing your automation test scripts. So it's a task of automation tester to design a framework in such a way that it should generate a very neat and clean reports. Okay, then test management should be easy. Okay, so you should design a test automation framework in such a way that even if you have 10,000 of test cases, but you should be able to manage all of the test cases very neatly, very precisely, and very mannerly. Okay, so your test automation framework should have this capability to manage each and everything that you are writing. Okay, then your test automation framework should provide an option to execute or skip certain set of tests or test cases. Okay, let's say I want to skip certain test cases from the execution incoming build, then obviously I should have a scope in my test automation framework so that I can skip the test cases that I don't want, or maybe the entire test that I don't want. So this is how your framework should be. Okay, the next and very important feature of framework should have is it should be understandable by your clients. Okay, now you will see that you will say that what is the need of client interaction in the test automation framework itself? But believe me, it is very crucial part. Whenever your client is non-technical, he cannot understand what kind of coding stuff you are writing, then obviously it becomes really difficult for your client, for you to tell your client that, hey man, we have done the automation testing and please give us so many $1,000 maybe. Okay, in short, so why he's going to pay you the $1,000 or maybe $5,000 for the automation stuff that he doesn't understand? Okay, this is a simple pure business. So your framework should be client friendly, your framework should be team friendly, and the test automation engineer who is been hired to your organization, it should be very friendly. Okay, it should be highly customizable. It should be highly customizable means your automation framework should be highly customizable. Means let's say in the coming future I want to change something in my automation framework, then a change should be done very effectively and easily so that it should not hamper the logics that we have written before. Okay, so this is how your automation framework should be highly customizable. Okay, then it should have a high endurance again. So if you are executing maybe 10,000s of test cases through your automation framework, then your automation framework itself should not get bricked. Okay, otherwise nobody is going to use your automation framework. Okay, then less coding should be done. Less coding uh, should be written by automation testers. Okay, less code should be written by automation testers. Less code should be written by automation testers. Now what this means, now what we are and what we are going to do, and who is the automation tester. At this point we are going to become an architect for test automation framework, and the guy who is going to use my test automation framework will become the automation tester. So my automation framework will be should be like this, that the automation tester should not waste his time in writing the logics. Okay, programming logics. So he should not waste his time in writing the programming logics. Programming logics will be developed by me because I am the automation framework designer, and I should give him a ease of access, a comfort of using it. Okay, so that he should invest his time, very less time in coding part. Okay, so your test automation framework should be like this, that he should just have to call the methods and that's it. Okay, you don't have to think about the logic, that what is going to happen. Means c is equals to a plus b, so he should not concentrate on that part, a plus b part. Okay, a plus b part we have to write. He will just pass the values a and b, and he will expect the result, that is c. So plus operation is what we are going to design in our way. So less code have to be written by the automation tester, but for that we have to write lots of code. Now let me give you the example for this. You guys might have aware about the C and C++ programming languages. Okay, they are middle level languages, whereas assembly language is the language which is low level language again. If you look at the assembly language, you have to write a very lengthy program for the very small operations. Okay, but it is comparatively faster. That is, if you come in the C or C++ programming languages, there you should write a very less code for a small operation or some operation, very less code as compared to assembly language, but it takes a lot extra time to execute rather than the assembly programming languages. Okay, means what is happening, the simplicity is increasing, but the logic behind executing that simplicity is again increasing. Okay, so when you will make your automation framework automation tester friendly, in that case you have to write lot of code in it. You have to write lot of code in it. Okay, so this is what I'm trying to say over here. So your automation framework, you have to take lots of efforts. Can you please, okay, you have to take lots of efforts on your automation framework, so that other peoples can enjoy the freedom of not writing the codes. Okay, this is how your test automation framework should be. So this is the need of automation framework in short. Okay, now let us try to discuss the different approaches which are available in the industry to design test automation frameworks. Test automation framework design approaches. Okay, the first and a very popular approach is keyword driven framework. The next we have is data driven framework. Then we have test driven development. Okay, so it's a typo again. Test driven development, and example of this is TestNG. Okay, then we have Maybe robot is the framework that we have. Then we have behavior driven development. Okay, behavior driven development. And one more approach we have is page object model, a very famous one. But this is not a framework. But all of these are the framework, test automation frameworks. Now, to which utility you will call a framework and to which utility you will not call a framework, that is what we need to understand. Because most of the people have the confusion that why page object model is not a framework and all of these are the framework. Okay, so I'm going to answer to this question. So to whom you will call that it is a framework. Okay, so what are the qualities of the framework? What are the identifying points of the framework? Okay, means if I say you that this is a Shah Rukh Khan, how will you identify this is a Shah Rukh Khan? Because there are certain measurements, there are certain things about the Shah Rukh Khan that you know already, and that will help you to decide whether he is Shah Rukh Khan or not. So obviously we should know that what a framework should have, so that I can call it an automation framework. Okay, so what are all things? So test automation framework should be customizable. Okay, customizable. It should have certain classes, okay, interfaces, abstract classes, okay, abstract classes, and libraries, third party libraries, or maybe Java libraries, or maybe any kind of libraries. So it should have certain libraries in them. Then it should generate a report. Okay, it should generate a report. It should be applied on any project. Okay, it should be applied on any project. And okay, it's a typo again. Z and S, the English, US English and UK English again. Okay, so it should generate a report. It should be applied to any project. Okay, then we should able to write our own exceptions, okay, libraries, and maybe annotations, etc. So a framework should allow you to write your own customized exceptions. It should allow you to create the own libraries that you are creating and use the libraries in your framework. It should support you to create your own annotations and so on and so forth. And then also it should be tolerant. Okay, very famous word in India so far, tolerant. So what is the meaning of tolerant? So it should be a secular kind of framework. So little political jokes are allowed for me. Okay, so it should be a secular kind of framework. Now what is meant by secular kind of framework? So it should accept all other features which are already designed, developed in the market, they are running and using. Okay, so your framework should not say that, yeah, array, I cannot accept this feature, you cannot use this feature along with me. So your framework will be secular enough so that it can access and handle and allow the different libraries, different functionalities in themselves, so that your framework will grow day by day and it will have the different choices. Now a test automation framework should automate web applications, okay, or desktop applications as well as the mobile applications. So you will say that, is it possible mobile applications as well as the APIs? Now you will say that, is this possible to create a framework which can handle all of this? So I'll say yes, it is possible to design a framework which can handle, which can automate all of the applications mentioned over here. Believe me. Okay, at the end of the sessions of the frameworks, you will understand. This is not the only session we are going to have. We'll have few more sessions in the future. Okay. So if certain tool is doing all of these stuffs, then I will call it is a framework. Okay, I'll call it is as it is a framework. Why? Because it has lots of classes, interfaces, abstract classes designed as per the requirement. Then we have several libraries included in them, third party, maybe customized, maybe own libraries of the company. It should generate a very neat and clean report. It should be applied to any project. We should able to write our own exceptions, libraries, annotations, etc. It should be tolerant or secular. Okay, it should accept the things, it should accept the other features also. And a web, it should automate web applications, desktop applications, mobile applications, APIs, and so on and so forth. Okay, so if someone is having these many qualities, okay, then we will call it as a framework. So in short, a framework should be Rajnikant. Okay, so your framework should be Rajnikant. He should be able to do everything. Okay, at the age of 55 also, he is a hero of Aishwarya Rai. So obviously, this is how our framework should be designed. We should design this framework. Okay, now we have seen that these are the frameworks, but this page object model is not a framework. I will answer why this is not an automation framework in coming sessions. Okay, but let me give you the little introduction about this keyword driven framework. Okay, so let us talk about the keyword driven framework. Session may get extended, guys. If you haven't done with your dinner, you can get your plate along with. Okay, so we are going to talk about the keyword driven framework. Keyword driven framework. Now, what is meant by keyword driven framework? Okay, what is meant by keyword driven framework? So keyword driven framework, as its name suggests, it is driven by the keywords. Okay, it is driven by the keywords. Now, what is meant by keywords? Now, if you remember that Java has several keywords in it, that is if, else, and so on, for, maybe switch, and so on. So these are the keywords in Java. Now, what is meant by keywords? Okay, by using these words, we are going to perform certain operations over here. Okay, by using these words, we are going to create certain operations here. Okay, but what are the keywords in terms of programming? Okay, so in a simple, very simple way, I will say, um, let's say that we have a web application. Okay, and the web application is under test. Now, for the testing purpose, what are all different actions that you can perform on your particular web page or the project that you are for which you are designing the automation framework? What are all different actions that you will perform on your web application? So let's say you will click on certain button, okay, or maybe link, okay, then you will enter text in text boxes, or maybe text areas. Okay, you may select a value from drop down, or there may be chances that you will drag and drop. Okay, drag and drop. There are the chances that you will press and hold alt key. Okay, there are the chances that you will perform this action on your web page. There are the chances that you will accept the alert. There are the chances that you will dismiss the alert. There are the chances that you will get the text from alert. Okay, now there are the chances that you will open a new tab. Okay, there are the chances that you will click on, sorry, you will click on element which is inside the frame. Okay, now you may open multiple windows. Okay, there are so many actions that you can perform on your web application under test. Okay, there are so many actions you can imagine. So these are the very basic and common actions that you can perform on any kind of web application. Okay, but there are certain project specific actions that you have to perform. Okay, let's say you are working in a banking domain where you need to drag a file and drop the file into particular location. Okay, and the file containing the payment information, for example. So for that you are dragging and dropping the file to particular location. So this is the entire action, composite action. Okay, so there can be n number of actions that you may perform on the web application you are testing. Okay, now what is keyword driven framework and what is mean by keyword over here? Here a keyword, one keyword is equals to, so let me write down, one keyword is equals to one action. Okay, one keyword is equals to one action, and one action is equals to one Java method. So there should be a separate Java method for the separate action that you can imagine on the web page. So the number of actions and number of Java methods are directly proportional over here. Not directly actually, in terms of probability, but somewhat they are equal. Okay, somewhere they are equal. So let's say I want to click on a button, then I should create a separate method which will be used to click on any button regardless of its XPath, regardless of its position, regardless of its name and anything. So if you are going to call this method, it should click the button. Okay, but if I talk the click method of the Selenium web element interface also has this method, click method. Okay, but this click method will click on the web element itself. Okay, for that we have to find the element by writing some XPath, CSS, or maybe ID, or maybe something else. And after writing the locator, we have to perform a click operation. But regardless of your locators, regardless of anything, regardless of any information, your keyword, click keyword, should click on the button mentioned. Okay, and there should not be constraint of projects that my keyword click method will work on only banking domain project, it will not work on the ERP domain projects, or it will not work on healthcare domain projects. So this should not happen. Your click method should be executed on any kind of project. Okay, so in a simple sense, keyword driven framework is a framework where one keyword is equals to one action, and one action, for one action we have to write one Java method along with Selenium, obviously. Okay, along with Selenium. Without Selenium it is not possible. Okay, so this is a very basic idea about the keyword driven framework. Now let me show you how we can actually create the keyword driven framework and how we can start thinking on it. So hereafter the thinking process starts. Believe me, this is the definition of keyword driven framework, nothing else. Okay, nothing else. Now whatever features I have mentioned above, these all features have to be there in the keyword driven framework itself. Okay, so let us see that how we can actually create a keyword, and then we will talk what are the advantages of having the keyword driven framework. Okay, so for that let me quickly open the Eclipse. So meanwhile I have certain questions, I guess. Yes, for me also not audible, guys. Click. Okay, so it was the time when I was not audible. किसी ने आवाज दबाने की कोशिश की, and obviously that was me. So let me quickly open the Eclipse. Perfect. Now let us create a new project, new Java project I'm going to create over here. And you should give a very decent and very nice and very client friendly name to your framework. So you should not write keyword driven framework. You should give some name to it. Okay, so it should be very unique name. It should be very professional name. But for the sake of fun and example, I'm going to give my framework as a name. Okay, Rajnikant, for example. So please mute your microphones. Now, this is the framework, Rajnikant framework that we are going to create, and this is a keyword-driven framework again. Now, if you see initially over here, it has only one package, that is SRC package, default package, and it has the JRE system libraries included automatically by the Eclipse. Now let us start creating the package. Now you should you should remember this point, and you should fit this point in your mind, that your framework should be modular. Now what is the meaning of modular? Have you heard the term modular kitchen? Okay, so it is somewhat similar to that. Okay, in our kitchen we have different sections for the different utensils, okay, or for the different tools, okay, so that we can access them very quickly. Okay, if we don't have a modular kitchen, then all of the stuffs, all of the utensils and tools are going to be placed like randomly. So someday we may not find any tool on the right time and right place. Let's say that you have put the milk on the stove and it is burning, and you don't get the whole what you will call that, the thing to hold the bowl, so it is hot. So in that case it may create a trouble for you. Okay, so your framework should be modular. Relevant things should be kept in separate packages. So here how we can create our framework modular: simply create different packages for the things which you feel they are correlated. Okay, so here I'm going to create one package and I'll give its name as keywords. I'm using the plurals. Why? Because inside this package I'm going to create one class, and its name I'm going to write keyword. Okay, keyword, this is the name of class. Now this class will have the keywords related to web applications. Okay, then again I'll create one more class, API keywords. This is the another class. Okay, now here in this keyword class I don't have any methods as such. Okay, now we have to start creating the methods. So let us imagine that what kind of actions we can perform in the manual testing. So very first action we used to perform is open browser. Okay, the very first action we used to perform is open browser. Now we should provide this as a keyword to our automation framework. Now what your automation tester should do is he should write everything, WebDriver manager .setup .chrome and everything. Okay, he have to take care of the exes and everything, and then he should write WebDriver driver equal to new Firefox driver, and then the Firefox browser will launch. So this is the programming stuff he need to write. Okay, and we want to reduce his programming efforts. So he will simply say that please open Chrome browser. Our framework should quickly open the Chrome browser. If next time he says that please open Firefox browser, our framework should quickly open the Firefox browser. This prompt a framework should be. Okay, so let us create a keyword over here, open browser. This is the keyword that I'm going to create. And believe me, one keyword, as I said, one keyword is one Java method. So I have created the Java method over here, and make sure that your keywords are public and static. Okay, I'll tell you the reason why. Okay, but please have a patience. Okay, public, static, and void. Okay, its return type should be void, because after opening the browser we don't have to return anything to the user. Now this is a Java method. In simple words, some or the other guy will call this method. Okay, after calling this method he will pass the browser name as a parameter. He will pass browser name as the parameter, and after passing the browser name as a parameter, we have to take a decision that what kind of things we require over here. Now here we need to write some little programming. So I need to write a switch case. Okay, inside this switch case, I'm going to pass this browser name. Now, whatever browser name the user or the automation tester have submitted, we have to check that against the cases, whether he have input Chrome. Okay, then what we will do, we will write web driver manager. For that, we have to include the jar file of WebDriver manager. How we can do that? So simply go to your project, right click on it, go to properties. This is the very usual step. Java build path, add external jars, and inside jar search for the WebDriver manager. So here it is, and click on open, apply. Okay, perfect. WebDriver manager dot. Okay, so let me import this one. Perfect. Dot Chrome driver dot setup. Okay, that's it. So now this WebDriver manager will automatically download the Chrome driver exe from its designated path, and it will configure this exe inside our Java method. Okay, now the next thing we need to do is WebDriver driver, or maybe Chrome driver, or maybe we'll say that Chrome driver, Chrome is equals to new Chrome driver. That's it. Okay, so let us import them. So for that, we have to include the Selenium jar in our project. So let us include the Selenium jar. So I have a Selenium standalone server 3.6. That's it. Let's import this one. Perfect. Now this will open the Chrome browser and we are going to break our case. But let's say he have given the input as Firefox. Then what should happen? Firefox browser should get opened. WebDriver manager dot Firefox dot setup. Okay. If you don't know about this WebDriver manager, we have a session on this. So already you can go on the YouTube and you can search for this session. Then Firefox driver ff is equals to new Firefox driver. Firefox driver. Okay, that's it. So it will open the Firefox browser. So we are going to break our case. And then again, let's say someone have entered the HTML unit. So in that case, we have to go for the HTML unit driver. But WebDriver manager cannot handle this HTML unit driver. So we have to write a separate code for it. And it doesn't require any library as such. HTML unit driver HTML is equals to new HTML unit driver. That's it. So it is a headless browser. Let's say some automation tester wants a headless browser to be opened, so you can use this one. The next case we have is maybe Safari. Okay, somebody may want to execute the test cases in Safari, then we should write this choice. So we should include as many browsers are supported by the Selenium as we can. Okay, so here write down all the browser names and in front of the case keyword. Okay, and then write down the default statement. Okay, default here, default, and in front of default simply write down. One more thing I forgot to tell you, that your automation framework should generate very good logs. Okay, logs of execution, that from which route your test cases have been past, and what is the status of them, what was the problem, where was the failure, and so on. So here we are going to give an error message to the user if none of the browser names matched above. So we are going to give the message invalid browser name. Now what is the browser name that you have given? He have passed the parameter, so mention it over here. Invalid browser name, that's it. Now this is the very first keyword that we have created. Now let us identify what are the problems in it first of all. Okay, so observe over here that we are instantiating the web browser instances, okay, in a different instance variables. Okay, so let's say that I want to create one more keyword, open URL. Okay, open URL, this is the keyword I want to create. Now the guy will pass some URL to this keyword. Okay, now I need to open this URL. Now how will you come to know that he have opened Chrome browser or Firefox browser or HTML browser or some other browser in this method? Okay, how will you know about this? Obviously you don't have any clue. Okay, so for that, what was the problem? Because we have created different instances for different browsers, so we need to create only one reference variable for any browser that we are going to open. So for that, what we are going to write is, we are going to write a variable driver. Okay, and let us import this one. That's it. So let's make it static. Driver. After that, we need to write in front of here, okay, driver. Then again here, driver. Then again, we need to mention here driver, and so on. That's it. Now there is a uniqueness maintained in this entire keyword. Now observe what will happen. Let's say some guy is calling this method open browser and he is passing the browser name as Chrome. Now this web driver instance will be instantiated with the Chrome driver, and from that it will be carry forwarded. Why? Because this is at the global level and not the local level. Okay, so it will be accessible for each and every methods we are writing inside this class. Okay, but again, this variable is accessible inside this class again. Okay, so we want to make this instance to be available to every class. So whenever you feel that you have certain global variables, certain constants, certain instance variables you need to create, so it is recommended to create them in a separate class. So inside keywords package, I'm going to create a new class, and I'm going to give them name as constants. Okay, now what I will do is, I will cut this from here and I'll paste this inside this constants classes. So this class will not have any method. Okay, but it will have only instance variables. Okay, now it is not a hard and fast rule at all. Okay, it is not a hard and fast rule at all. Why? Because you can manage it as according to your way, but this is my way of designing the framework. I usually keep the constants or whatever instance variable I required through the entire test. I used to keep them in a separate class. Okay, so that they should be accessible and they should be traceable by me, so that it will become easy to maintain them, because I know where are the constants. Okay, I can go them and I can change, I can add, I can delete. So it is very easy and convenient to modify such kind of things. Why? Because they are modular. Okay, they are in different sections. So for keywords, I'm going to remove this from here, and here what I need to write is constants dot driver. Why? Because this inside this constants we have made this public and static. So static members are accessible directly by the class name. So we don't have to create instance for them. So this is the very biggest advantage. So if we reduce the number of instances, then obviously our heap memory will get saved. So if the heap memory gets saved, then obviously your speed of execution will be fast and faster. Okay, so your framework should be faster again. So this is one more feature that I skipped accidentally. Okay, next, constants dot driver. Again, constants dot driver, and so on. That's it. Now if I write constants dot driver dot get, and if I pass this URL over here, then obviously these keywords are going to open the URL for me. This is very simple and easy. Okay, this is pretty easy. Now why this open URL can open the URL? Because this driver instance from constants class will be instantiated by open browser method. And as we have studied about the switch case, inside switch case only one case can be executable at a time. Okay, so only one test case will be executed, the one which is matching again. Okay, the test case, this case will be executed, and this case will instantiate this driver instance which is unique inside entire framework. So only constants class is having this one. So this driver instance will get instantiated with the provided browser name. So let us test this keyword. Okay, let us test it. So for that we need to create one more package over here, and we will call this package as test cases. Okay, inside this package I can create one more package, and I will give them a name as regression. Okay, regression. So inside this regression I can actually create a class. Let's create a class, and we'll call this as regression, for example. That's it. Now let's imagine that your automation tester is writing this class, and he's writing the test cases in it. So author is automation tester, right? He is the guy who knows the little programming. He can just create the classes, and he can just invoke the methods, call the methods. Now he will write certain method over here. Let's say tc underscore 01. This is the first test case that he have created, and he want to use the test ng in it. So for that you need to import the test ng. So test ng and j commander both we will require. Why? The question have been answered in the previous session. Okay, now this is the first test case that he wants to write. So he will write and the test annotation to this method. Perfect. This is the test case. Now first step in his test case is open browser. Okay, so he should not write the long program over here. What he should write? Keyword dot open browser. Can you see? Keyword dot open browser. Simply put the browser name. Let's say Chrome. That's it. That's it. This is how it is easy. Keyword dot open browser, and it is very readable again. Keyword open browser, and what we need to pass? The browser name. Okay. See one more time. Keyword dot open browser. Can you see what it is asking for? Browser name. So we have to give the browser name, that is Chrome. Okay, that's it. And then again, next method we have is open URL. Okay, but can you see open URL method is not visible over here? Why it is not visible? Because we are trying to access it by using the class name, whereas it is an instance method over here. Can you see? So we have to make this method as static, and this is the reason why all keywords should be static. So we should not waste our memory in making them instance. Why? Because we are not going to use the multi-threading over here right now. Okay, keyword dot open URL. Now we need to put the URL over here. Let's say https://www.facebook.com. That's it. So this is how it is simple. Now see how many lines of code he is writing. Just 2 lines of code to launch the URL. Just 2 lines. Okay, let's execute this. Sorry. Okay, some test-ng exception have been occurred because we don't have any jar. So SLF4J is required. So let me import that one. Okay, it is there. So can you please mute yourself? Yes, can you see the Chrome browser has been launched? It is jumping on the taskbar. Yeah, browser has been opened. And the Facebook URL has been launched. This is how easy writing your automation test script by means of automation framework, test automation framework. Okay, so these are the very 2 keywords that we have designed in our keyword driven framework so far. Okay, now in the next session we will see that how we can create more keywords and how we can bind them, how we can use them, how we can add more and more programming logic to them. So this is all about the framework's introduction and a very simple keyword driven framework. Do you guys have any questions?